all. Welcome to CEC lecture. The topic for the lecture is the Earth Day. In this lecture, we shall attempt to explain the significance and important themes of the Earth Day. The lecture shall also present important insights from the Frontiers Report 2022 released by United Nations Environment Programme to highlight important environmental concerns which the planet Earth is facing. Mahatma Gandhi ji said, "Earth provides enough to satisfy every man's needs, but not every man's greed." This tells us, this very important quote and the very powerful words from Mahatma Gandhi ji tells us about the magnanimity of the planet Earth, and to add to that how this planet Earth has everything for the need but not for the human greed. Human greed which always tries to control and exploit the resources for vested interests. Wendell Berry famously said, "The earth is what we all have in common." As we all know that the earth has a special place in the solar system. It is the only planet which sustains life. And today, the planet is facing several challenges. And an important challenge from climate change to pollution to global warming, there is a need for everyone on the planet Earth to get together and think about conservation of the earth. Because if the earth will not sustain, human life will also be in peril. Earth is like a common public good, and thereby the word of Wendell Berry, that is, the earth is what we all have in common. There is a need for all of us to get together, to think about environmental protection, to work toward conservation of precious resources of the earth. Leo Tolstoy said, and we quote, "One of the first conditions of happiness is that the link between man and nature shall not be broken." Now, this important towering idea, that is, the link between man and nature shall not be broken. It is vital for happiness. We all know human beings depend on nature for their various needs. However, at the same time, this interface between human beings and nature should be one based on sustainability and not on rampant exploitation and harm to Earth's important precious natural resources. Every year on April 22nd, the Earth Day is observed. The Earth Day is an important day to mark the anniversary of the rise of modern environmental movement in 1970. The Earth Day is an important observance to highlight important environmental concerns and challenges faced by the planet Earth. Quoting from very important inputs that we got from various resources for our research, that is, the formation of Earth Day was a response to a specific environmental crisis when smog, polluted rivers, and oil spills led to a fire in the United States. Further, as we understand the historical perspective with respect to the observance of the Earth Day, 20 million Americans from various walks of life walked on the streets on 22nd April 1970, demonstrating, putting their voices against the indifferent attitude of people towards the planet, and at the same time demanding a way forward. So the Earth Day, since celebrated, when it was first celebrated on 22nd April 1970, today it has come a long way. The day is also credited with the contribution towards the creation of United States Environmental Protection Agency, the passage of Clean Air, Clean Water, Endangered Species Acts. When we talk about the Earth Day, let's also understand that how environment did not have a primary position of analysis or was not an important issue concerning global governance, because the agenda of global governance was driven by power and national interest. The idea of power and national interest defined by the realist narrative was seen in the sense of control and domination, primarily referring to the military control and domination. The work of the American marine biologist Rachel Carson's, the very important work, The Silent Spring, brought the attention of many people towards how the use of pesticides, DDT, was leading to more harm for the cycles of the process of the earth, right from impacting the food chain, the supply chain, water pollution, land pollution. The work, The Silent Spring, presented that the idea that what future challenges the world would confront if this pollution is unchecked. So what we see here is that how this work led to sensitization of the people with respect to concerns of the environment. So as we understand the context of the Earth Day, it is essential to understand that this day comes into existence after the environment began to face multiple challenges. There was news of oil spills, smog, pollution, and all of the things were not included as important for deliberation into agenda of global governance. But with time, the work of Rachel Carson's Silent Spring led to awareness about issues concerning the earth, from oil spills, smog, pollution, climate change, global warming, use of pesticides, and how all of them would pose a huge challenge for the planet Earth. People earlier were largely oblivious to environmental concerns, and the important work by Rachel Carson's, the related voices because of that, pointed out that how polluted environment would be a huge threat for the human health. So therefore, the publication of Rachel Carson's New York Times bestseller, The Silent Spring, in 1962 was indeed a very important work that made people aware about the need to get together to raise voices for the environment, the need to think about the future challenges. So therefore, since 1970, the Earth Day became a voice of the emerging environmental consciousness. As we talk about the Earth Day, let's now understand some of the important themes, some of the important action that is done on Earth Day every year with reference to environment. For the purpose of analysis, we shall delve into the themes of past 3 years Earth Day. In the year 2020, which was a very special occasion also, as we just read that how 1970, 22nd April 1970, that is, it was the first Earth Day celebration. So therefore 50 years down the line, 2020 year was a special occasion too, because it marked the 50th anniversary of the Earth Day. The theme of the Earth Day 2020 was climate action. Reading from the website, looking at the archives and resources, the press inputs presented at earthday.org, that is, climate change represents the biggest challenge to future of humanity and the life support systems that make our world habitable. Now we all know that today there are vagaries of climate, there is rise in temperature of the earth, and all of this is attributed to climate change. Climate earlier and climate change thereof was an agenda just limited to certain disciplines like geography. But with time, the need to look at the important challenges, the rise of new security threats, bypassing earlier forms of security threats where the threat cuts across all borders, climate change became an important agenda. Several countries got together to voice concerns with respect to impact of climate change and how this climate change associated with global warming, rise of sea levels, heating of the earth has an important impact on the flora and fauna and biodiversity of the planet. And if not taken into account, it will be a huge threat for the future existence of the planet Earth as well as for the future of humanity. Moving on, the theme of Earth Day 2021 was Restore Our Earth, Natural Processes, Emerging Green Technologies and Innovative Thinking that can restore the world's ecosystems. Further, to dwell further on the theme of Earth Day 2021, Restore Our Earth, quoting from the important inputs of research that we got from earthday.org, that is, we all need a healthy earth to support our jobs, livelihoods, health, survival and happiness. A healthy planet is not an option. A healthy planet is a necessity. Further, the important insight presented in the press updates presented by earthday.org to highlight the theme of Earth Day 2021, Restore Our Earth, that is, more than 1 billion people in 192 countries, if we go by the data in 2021, now participate in the Earth Day activities each year, making it the largest civic observance in the world. So therefore, we have to understand that idea of interdependence that is essential. Human beings, they are dependent on earth for livelihood, for health, for survival. And therefore, it is very essential. Rather, as it is said, it is a necessity that we must pledge our support to restore this fine balance. We must work out avenues to cut down pollution. We must move towards adapting green technologies in our lives. We must pledge support for innovative thinking that can restore world's ecosystem. The theme of the Earth Day 2022 moving forward is invest in our planet. Now, it becomes very essential, the very idea of invest in our planet. Now, when we look at this theme, that is invest, when, for example, when we look at the rational thinking, the economic model, we invest in something that we look as like a safety valve for future, or something that gives us better returns. So, quoting from the press inputs of earthday.org, that is, now is the time for the unstoppable courage to preserve and protect our health, our families, our livelihoods. That is, together we must invest in our planet, because a green future is a prosperous future. So, a rational perspective, that is, we must look at our concern, the care, the support towards sustaining planet Earth as an attempt to secure our health, as an attempt to safeguard our families, as an attempt to protect our livelihoods. Because if the Earth will not be there, we cannot imagine our existence. So, therefore, a green future, it is the yardstick for a prosperous future. Now, as we just discussed the important themes of the Earth Day, as you know, 2020, the theme was climate action. In 2021, the theme of the Earth Day was restore our Earth. In 2022, the theme of the Earth Day is invest in our planet. Now, why does it become essential to keep on revisiting the idea of a prosperous, greener planet? The need to move towards green solutions, innovative thinking to factor in conservation, preservation and protection of Earth. And to further highlight on that, let's take into account an important report presented by United Nations Environment Programme. The United Nations Environment Programme was established on 5th June 1972. The United Nations Environment Programme works to identify and draw attention to emerging issues of environmental concern. The Frontiers Report 2022 was released by United Nations Environment Programme, and when we look at the latest report, February 2022, the name of the report, Noise, Blazes and Mismatches, Emerging Issues of Environmental Concerns. The report, which was also released before the United Nations Environment Assembly, it focused on the need to understand, on the need to know rising public health problems that are disrupting natural life cycles and causing environmental impacts around the world. Some important insights from this report, and we quote before you, quoting from the Frontiers Report 2022 titled Noise, Blazes and Mismatches, Emerging Issues of Environmental Concerns, released by UN Environment Programme. And the report points out climate change propels phenological shifts in terrestrial, aquatic and marine ecosystems. The report points out the current rate of anthropogenic climate change. Anthropogenic climate change because of human-induced factors. Anthropogenic climate change, dear learners, implies because of human-oriented factors. So, and the report, the Frontiers Report 2022 by UNEP points out the current rate of anthropogenic climate change is accelerating too quickly for many plants and animal species to adapt through their phenological capacity to shift the timing of life cycle stages. Further, the reports point out phenological shifts in crops in response to seasonal variations will be challenging for food production in the face of climate change. Further, the report points out trends towards more dangerous fire weather conditions are likely to increase due to rising concentrations of atmospheric greenhouse gases and the attendant escalation of wildfire risk factors. Climate change can prompt extreme wildfires, generating lighting that can ignite other fires far beyond the fire front and creating a hazardous feedback loop. Now, some of the important solutions or way out for reforms presented in the report, and we quote from the Frontiers Report 2022, some solutions. Existing conservation measures serve as immediate interventions. There is a need for restoring habitats, conserving biodiversity, building corridors to enhance ecological connectivity and genetic diversity, and adjusting protected area boundaries as species ranges shift help strengthen their adaptive capacity. Another important solution presented in the report, that is conservation and ecosystem management measures must be taken to encourage microevolution, where species evolve and adapt to new conditions. So therefore, dear learners, as we all know that environment today is an important issue, we all have to think about various environmental issues from climate change, global warming, pollution, amongst others. What we see here is that earlier, the idea of environmental issues, the challenge coming from environmental issues was not taken into much consideration. However, with important work, namely Rachel Carson's Silent Spring, that is pointing out Rachel Carson's words, that is, in nature, nothing exists alone. The work pointed out that how pesticides are detriment for the biosphere. They threaten not only the target population but also impact the food chain, the environment, the humans, and therefore it is becoming essential that we must understand that humans cannot misuse powerful chemicals and pesticides without knowing the impact of them on the future of the planet. One cannot allow profits only to lead, and this would be detrimental for the natural and the human world. So there is a need to act responsibly, and therefore right from what Mahatma Gandhi ji said, that earth provides enough to satisfy every man's needs but not every man's greed. Therefore, when we deliberate on Earth Day, we must understand that it should not be only about the celebration of the birth of modern environmental movement in 1970, but also we must reaffirm the need to understand for the need to have a safer, greener and prosperous planet. Time and again, several international organizations have pointed out the need to understand climate change. In the lecture, we debated and deliberated on how the important inputs by the Frontiers Report 2022, titled as Noise, Blazes and Mismatches, Emerging Issues of Environmental Concern, pointed out that how climate change leads to huge phenological shifts in terrestrial, aquatic and marine ecosystems, and therefore it is essential that we must conserve biodiversity, build corridors to enhance ecological conservation, connectivity and diversity. And therefore, it is essential to understand that Earth Day, which is observed on 22nd April every year, there is a need to get together, to spread awareness about pollution. There is a need to celebrate the environment of our planet. There is a need to work towards a sustainable, prosperous green earth. Saving earth and its environment, dear learners, it is very important. There is the need of the hour here is that we all must understand that our well-being is not in isolation. Our well-being rather is solely dependent on this planet. Therefore, we all must strive, we all must take our responsibility to take care of the planet Earth. We hope that the lecture on the Earth Day presented to you significant inputs to create awareness about pollution, to pledge support to save and conserve our planet, because we must understand if the planet Earth will not be there, our life will not be there. Our well-being is dependent on prosperous, greener planet. So let's get together to save the earth. Let's always be committed to conserve and save earth and its environment. We look forward to feedback from you all. Thank you very much.